We've got tips and recipes for healthy living. So for fun and inspiration, come and join us in the raw food world.
Welcome everybody, this is Matt, Monarch with the Raw Food World TV show, and we are at Danny Vitalis' house, and we've got Angela playing on the gym right now. You loving it?
Yeah.
Right
I
on.
want a green one.
You want a green one? Okay, so I'm very excited to share this with you. There's a lot of cutting-edge information out there on how to get nutrients and superfoods and teas and elixirs in the human body, and this can become very overwhelming for a lot of people. It's just like such cutting-edge information. All this information keeps coming to us, and we don't know where to go with it. Well, we've got Danny Vitalis here, and he actually created a program that actually does a step-by-step. It's like a step-by-step program that actually makes it really easy for people to understand and do.
We call the program Elixir Craft, which is the craft or the art of making elixirs. And the idea of elixir, basically, this is what elixir means. If you look it up, it means a medicinal drink that's sweetened to your palate, that's a delivery system for medicine. So that's how all our tonics started out. The reason we call sodas tonics is because they used to actually be healthy drinks, which were herbs dissolved into water or into teas and then usually carbonated, and so we call them tonics. Well, that's all fallen away. What we're all still looking for, the elixir, the medicinal drink. So the idea of the smoothie is like that, and we usually start off with a smoothie, throwing everything in the blender and whipping it up. Well, as we get more advanced or we go further in our nutritional practice, the idea of the elixir gets really interesting, where we start using more specific superfoods and herbs and extracts in our drink to just get more medicine into us. So you probably saw the videos of Matt and I and Angela going to visit the spring, and we were using the spring water. So the basis of our drink is going to be spring water. It's water that we collected optimally, and if not, whatever water we're using in our strategy at that time. The idea, though, is that our elixirs are built from the water up. Sometimes we say something's built from the ground up. Well, with our elixirs, it's built from the water up. So we start with the water. That's the beginning. Now, I turn that water into a tea. This is my teapot. I use ceramics, and that gets us away more and more from the metals, which is something I'm always interested in. So here's my ceramic teapot, and earlier I put some reishi mushroom and some goji berry in there. Really simple tea, goji berry, reishi mushroom. You can use whatever herbs you're working with. So the nice thing about herbs is there's herbs to do whatever you're looking for, and it's not hard to learn about them. So whatever herbs you're working with, I really like medicinal mushrooms. But I like to turn my my water into a tea. So what I did was heated those up in this water, and now I've got this great tea, which I'm going to pour through a strainer. Key to have strainers like this if you're into making nut milks, if you're into making elixirs. These are great. They help us to strain all this material out. So what I'm going to do is just pour that in here. Now here's the concept. If I just used water, I would make a wonderful drink. But by using a tea, I can pack that much more medicinal or like superfood qualities into the drink, right? Because rather than having just plain water and then blending my superfoods in, I'm blending my superfoods now into tea, a medicinal tea. So that gets me more of those adaptogenic herbs I'm looking for. Next thing we're going to do is turn that tea. We took the water, turned it into a tea. Now we're going to turn the tea into a nut milk. So most of you probably know how to make a nut milk. I'm going to start with some almonds that I germinated here. So these are great almonds from overseas. I know Matt can get you guys the almonds you're looking for. Remember, you want to go with reputable people when you buy your almonds, because a lot of them are pasteurized now, so make sure you're getting the real thing. So I'm going to throw a few almonds in there. Now, if we just blended that, we'd make a nut milk. But let's make that more interesting. I'm going to throw in some other stuff. This is milk thistle seed. It's one of my favorite herbs. Not essential, but one of my favorites to work with. It's a liver protector. It's a nut. It's a seed. We can just throw it in there, and we can turn that into a nut milk as well. Now, something a lot of people don't realize is how creative you can get with nut milks that you make. So don't just stop at your nuts. If you want to explore more, you can throw in other things. You could throw in cinnamon. You could throw in cloves. You could throw in whatever spices you want to add flavor to the nut milks and make them more interesting. This is a really interesting herb here called Grains of Paradise. Easy to find online. It's in the pepper family. Tastes like almost like a black pepper with a whole bunch of tropical flowers mixed into it. Really exotic, really sexy, really fun. So I'll throw a little bit of that in. And just for fun, we'll throw in a little bit extra, just so you can see how creative you can get with this. One of the things about Elixir Craft is it's heavy on creativity and playing with the medicines you like. That's jasmine flower, and I'm sure everybody's familiar with the smell of jasmine flower. Amazing smell, beautiful herb, used really often in Chinese teas and Chinese formulas. you can just throw some of that in there. And when we blend that, the flavor will get left in the nut milk. So we're making like an almond jasmine nut milk. It's going to be fun. I'm going to throw in a couple apricot kernels just for a little extra medicine, just for a little extra fun and flavor. And we'll blend that up. So how do you make a nut milk? You take your nuts, add them to water, and blend it. If you want to get more advanced, you could use tea instead of water. You want to get more advanced, you can use different flavors as well. All a nut milk really is an old kind of technique called a maceration. This is a maceration. Just pour this now, this nut milk, right through the strainer. That takes all those nut fibers out. A lot of people don't like digesting nut fiber. A lot of people find nut fibers a bit irritating or even a little allergy forming. So you can strain them right out and just end up with the nice liquids. It's kind of like being on a hydroponic diet. So I'm just going to strain that through, and there's this nice nut milk coming through there, and you can see that nice white nut milk. But more than just being almond milk, it's going to have the flavors of the spices that we added to it.
And they can just take it step by step if they don't have the herbs quite yet.
Absolutely. All you really need to do this is just some almonds and some water. You could do it with macadamia and water. You could do it with cashew and water. You could do any nut or seed. We'll make a nut milk. And if you have other herbs, when I first started with this kind of thing, I started with some of the real common ones. Cinnamon, nutmeg, I'm sorry. As I got more advanced, started getting into cloves and cardamom and more of the chai spices. And then I started to explore more out into some of the more exotic stuff. Other ones that are nice, vanilla's nice, things like that add a little bit of flavor. That just keeps it interesting. You know, after a while, regular nut milks might get a little boring. Maybe you want to take it to the next level. So that's what Elixir Craft is about, but it's really about the core principles. The core principles. It makes it simple.
So it's not necessarily about recipes. It doesn't have recipes in there. It's pretty much how to do this and how people can do it themselves.
Yeah, when we start out, what's really amazing and helpful for us is recipes. That's what we want in the beginning because we want to know how to do it. Eventually, we want to understand how recipes are made, so that rather than relying on other people's recipes, we can make our own recipes. It's sort of like it's fun to appreciate art, and then it's even more fun to do your own art. So Elixir Craft becomes your own art. It's like being trained as a chef so you can invent your own recipes. However, the principles are really simple, so whatever you have in your kitchen can kind of get turned into your elixir. So there's our nut milk, basic nut milk. So we took water and we made it into a tea, and then we made the tea into a maceration or a nut milk. Let's start adding some stuff into that and making this fun and more interesting. This is a bit of the colostrum that we were looking at yesterday. I'm going to throw a little bit of that in. It's one of my favorite foods, and I've been using it quite a bit. Adds that whole anabolic growth factor quality to the drink. Tastes really good too. Sun Warrior protein, this has been one of my favorites lately, biofermented rice protein. We'll throw a little of that in there. You start adding things like protein into your drink, and then suddenly your drink becomes more of a meal. So if you've ever made drinks and felt like, you know what, you were hungry again really fast, well, it's because there wasn't really enough juice in it, not enough calories. So we can start adding a little bit extra to it, and it becomes a meal. Remember, Hippocrates told us, let food be your medicine and medicine be your food. This is Shilajit. Now Shilajit's got an interesting flavor to it, almost smoky. Almost a bit smoky of a flavor, almost like a chipotle kind of flavor. Since we're adding in things that taste smoky, let's stay with that theme. I'm going to throw in a little bit of maca. Maca's malty and it goes great with that flavor. So we don't so much need a recipe here as much as a theme. If we know that the things we're adding in are going to have this malty, smoky flavor, then we can just keep working with that. A little scoop of maca, no specific amount. If you love maca, use more. I don't like it enough to use more. That's my personal preference. Cacao, because I love cacao. And because it's sort of, for me, one of the central foods in my whole system of how I feed myself. I really like some of the minerals that are in it. I really like the alkaloids that are in it. I love the flavor of it. I love the way it makes me feel. What else do we have? Interesting herb I've been working with lately, mucunia. I know, Matt, you have mucunia available for people.
Shilajit also.
Amazing food here. So mucunia is a very interesting leguminous plant coming in from South America, coming over from India. Very interesting chemicals in this plant, and I think it's one we're going to be hearing a lot about. So I'm going to add in a scoop of that. Again, a nice kind of malty flavor that it has. It goes well with Shilajit.
Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again at the Raw Food World.